Hello and welcome to another episode of the Star Wars Minute. It's your daily podcast in which we analyze, scrutinize, and celebrate The Last Jedi, one popping minute at a time. I'm Alex Robinson from alexrobinson.fun.
I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.com.
I'm Joe Dator, cartoonist from JoeDator.com.
And I'm Suzen Tekla Kruglnska from Kruglnska.com.
Welcome back. What's your new podcast that's coming out called? The Comedy Funnel?
Comedy Film Funnel.
Comedy Film Funnel.
Comedy Film Funnel.
CFF. Well,
Yes.
welcome back, you guys. Glad you could be here for minute number 33 of The Last Jedi. Minute number 33 starts off with General Organa opening her eyes in space.
Organa.
It ends a minute later with porgs roasting over an open fire. So yeah, this has the I guess I'll come out and say a controversial Mary Poppins scene in which Leia uses the Force to kind of pull herself back to the ship.
Now, who is
save
that?
her life.
Who
Mary
is
Poppins.
that?
She was
Yeah.
a nanny on the titular movie Mary Poppins.
I've never heard of that. I'm not familiar with
She's
that.
married to the guy from The
I don't
Office.
understand what that Mary Poppins thing is.
What Sherry Poppins?
No, if you're referring to Leia, General Leia, heroically saving her own life by using her power of the Force to return to safety of the ship, I guess that's one way to describe it.
In Superman pose. And Mary Poppins, like, she had an umbrella. She was holding an umbrella. And
Yeah.
I think that's why between Superman, and I'm, for people who can't see me doing a Superman pose, and Mary Poppins holding an umbrella, they both had poses as they were flying through the air. And that's why this, I find it a little hard, is the pose that they have.
May I
Leia in.
interject that
Yes.
you just reminded me of Barney Gumble saying goodbye to Sherry Bobbins
Yeah.
by saying, "So long, Superman."
Yes, that's right. But yeah, it's the pose. I don't like, I think there's a way they could have done this with a little more taste.
What would you do with your arms if you were floating through space?
I would flap them.
Okay, that's one answer. What would you do?
Aerodynamics aren't in question, so you could do like a cannonball. You could do a
Cannonball. That's exactly what I was thinking. Cannonball.
Yeah.
Because then if you hit the door, maybe you'd get in.
Who here has
certainly make it-
ziplined? Who here has ziplined?
I have
Okay,
not.
what did you do with your arms when you ziplined?
I put them out. Actually, it was funny because where I was ziplining, we were ziplining. This is in Las Vegas, and you're ziplining, and there's people below you.
That was me too. I did the same thing.
Oh, okay. And the whole time I was literally flipping the bird to everyone beneath.
That would have been an.
I mean,
like Carrie Fisher,
honestly,
dead on.
Yeah, that would have been a.
Sorry to say dead on, but
little bit inside baseball, but that it's Fremont Street. That was entirely appropriate.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, I did that exact same zip line in Las Vegas, and what I did was I did Christopher Reeve. I was trying to bank from side to side. I was like, and then I got through it, and I was like, how the hell did Christopher Reeve do that? It was harder than I thought.
Yeah.
First of all, it's really hard when you're prone, when you're in a prone position on your stomach, to look straight ahead forward because the neck doesn't want to bend that way.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to actually fly like Superman. I was like, wow, how did Christopher Reeve do that? He was even better than we thought. Once you're in that position, but the thing is, you're gonna do something with your arms that is satisfying, that makes you feel good.
I can't think of any pose that doesn't look silly. Like two arms up, it does look like Superman. If she's just like going with her face forward, kind of like Iron Man style, it looks kind of weird. It's
mummy thing, kind of a mummy pose. To me, a mummy pose would have worked a little better. I don't know.
I mean, if she did like a sort of an anime character with a fist forward and the other one at her like that.
But that's what it looks like.
What she does.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Like her fist is forward.
She's sort of reaching. She's got the reaching out with her hand.
It's like a running
thing.
man
And the hand-
given a stiff arm.
And the hand does seem to be important when manipulating the Force. And the hand often is, especially Rey uses her hand a lot.
She could have done like a swimming move.
Yes.
Well, later.
Both hands and doing, or just like waving people like, hey, hi. Just, or get out of the way. I'm coming. Get out of the way.
Open the window.
It might also be the camera angles, though, the camera angles, just the way it was done. It's too dramatic in a way. It's just too. It's a bit
very, very
silly.
dramatic.
It's a bit
very,
silly.
very dramatic. I think it's just this side of silly. It's daring you to go there, to go with it. And this first time I saw this movie, my reaction to this was, what did I just see?
Right.
And the movie did that to me a bunch of times. And as I said before, I loved it. I loved the complete and utter pulling the rug out from under me. The second time I saw this movie, I brought a friend of mine who is not a huge Star Wars fan. I mean, he's Star Wars tolerant, let's put it that way. And his reaction to this moment was, okay. And I think that's most people's reaction. Even people who loved it, my first reaction to it was, okay. And it did have to sink in, and I did have to sort of process it a bit.
That will always be my reaction till the day I die.
To just this?
It'll never change. To just this scene. Okay.
Oh, okay.
It just, the way that's done, I don't know. It just...
But don't you find that when you react with okay to things, that is the precursor to eventually loving those things? Like if you meet someone and your first reaction to meeting them, some guy walks up to you and he's...
Okay, that's true. You're right about that.
Making advances, and you're like, okay, this guy is... And the next thing you know, you're like, you know what? I think I'm crazy about this guy.
Go ahead.
It does... I know albums are like that a lot. What end up being kind of my favorite albums are ones that at first I'm like, I don't know how to feel about this. Like, the ones that slowly creep up on you, not to pull too much off your, I don't want guys to slowly creep up on you, but if you get, the things that it takes time to appreciate and you establish a taste for often end up being kind of closer to your heart because you formed yourself around them in a sense. And so I think that could be part of the appeal of this film. And again, it's, going back to the one from the original trilogy that it both its place in this trilogy and its kind of maybe not exact stylistic equivalent, but the one that people kind of seem to link it to is Empire Strikes Back, where it's going for, Empire was a departure from Star Wars in a way that, a lot of people weren't expecting. Like, what's this? What's going on? I wanted just, my Flash Gordon pills. And so I'm assuming that this will have the kind of an arc as far as its appreciation goes, where slowly people will come around more on it and be like, oh, I see what they were doing.
Yeah. On a personal note, the first time when I was a teenager, the first time I ever heard a Tom Waits song, I wanted to burn my own face off with a blowtorch rather than hear one more note of it. And now I have every Tom Waits album. I absolutely love him.
No, I've had all those experiences with, music and film and men and humans. But
you dated Tom Waits for a long time, so.
But this is not one of those. And to me, that's why I'm not as big a fan of this film. And again, it's just, a matter of taste. It's totally a matter of taste. This film is much more comic booky. Yeah. And the jokes are not my kind of humor as much, just from the get-go with the Hux and Poe back and forth and it ending with your mama. I was like, that's kind of how this film goes. And to me, it's a little cringy. This film is a little too cringy for me, but that's just a matter of taste. Like, I understand absolutely why some people would prefer this because it's more fun. You know what I mean? But it's just not my thing.
But are you affected by the baggage that comes with this regarding Carrie Fisher, though? Does that color your.
No, I think it makes it worse. I think it makes it worse, because I would hope for a more dignified. To me, this is not dignified, her flying through the air like that. And I just again, the way it's shot, I don't know. There's just, again, Rian Johnson just takes it a little too far. He hits things a little too hard for me. And this is a perfect example. And we'll see one a little in a future minute this week, where he just doesn't know where to pull back a little bit. And again, that's why I prefer movies that have a little more subtlety to them. This is just, again, the jokes and the visuals and the visual notes, and this is clearly, people call it a Christmas ornament too, the flowiness of her gown, maybe she should have been wearing something different. I don't know.
Yeah, she should have been wearing tights and a cape. I know that humor's not your kind, because I know you're more of an Ernest fan. You're a big Jim Varney fan.
Yes.
But so I understand why the humor doesn't land for you. I don't know. For me, the thing about this is, it's obviously, this had to have been, it was all in the script and it was all filmed, but somehow it really feels like it's a moment that's about Carrie Fisher. And it's about the baggage of us going into the movie knowing that Carrie Fisher had died, even though she filmed these scenes. So obviously they couldn't have known it, but it's almost too perfect, because it gives us this moment with her that feels cathartic to me. It gives us one more moment with her that feels cathartic to me. And I do think this movie should have been her last appearance in a Star Wars, as I've said before. Because for me, it feels like that's what I needed to process Carrie Fisher. I needed to see her die and come back from the dead.
I needed to see a shot of a pilot looking out the window and then throwing his wine bottle away once he saw that there was a lady floating outside.
That would have been great. Or rubbing his eyes, or
Well, I also like the idea, since you said Ernest, I'm picturing kind of a more slapsticky, where Leia opens her eyes, realizes she's floating in space, and has a zoinks, and then starts moving, and her feet are going, but she's still floating away, and then right, a little bongo feet.
It's like a double take.
That gives me the heebie-jeebies. Do you remember the show When Havoc Struck? Did you guys get that?
No. What is that?
It was a series that they would show after school for some reason. I'm surprised, Joe, you don't remember it.
I never heard of it.
Yeah, it was sort of related to In Search Of, I think. But When Havoc Struck was just footage of one kind of tragedy, whatever they had on film, and they would show a half hour of that, blimps blowing up, airplane crashes. But there was this one where it was people falling to their deaths.
Whoa.
And it was a half hour of people fall. This was at 3:00 on Channel 5 or something. And you would see people running in the air. Oh God, it was horrible. It was traumatizing. And that's what you just, But anyway.
So I have a question for Susan. How come you don't like this, but you do like the Chewie death and resurrection?
Right. So, that was the thing. Okay, that's a great thing to talk about. So I know people absolutely hate the Chewie misdirection in Rise of Skywalker. But without that, we wouldn't have had that beautiful scene of Rey seeing that ship go off, putting, and again, this is the hand thing, the hand force thing, and pulling it back. To me, that was a beautiful use of the force. It was a beautiful thing for Rey. It was her heart. She was just so brokenhearted to see Chewie being taken away. And it was just about, Rey's personality and just every fiber of her being wanting to get Chewie back. And that, I thought that was a really beautiful scene. So we needed that. We needed the Chewie misdirection to get that beautiful scene that furthered Rey's character, and that to me brought tears to my eyes. And I agree. It kind of sucks when you find out Chewie's still alive. You're just like, it felt a little cheap, but on the other hand, now that time has passed, I appreciate that we got that beautiful scene. Now that's what I would have liked to have seen Leia do. Absolutely. I would have loved to have seen Leia doing that exact thing. Seeing Chewie getting kidnapped and Leia being the one pulling him back. And suddenly you're like, oh, she is that kind of force. And again, that's sort of a very feminine use of the force too. I think that, it's a little more, I'm saving somebody, and because I love this person. And I would have loved to have seen that. I also would have loved to have seen Leia slice.
Well, that's how we win, not by
exactly.
But by saving what we love.
I also wouldn't have minded seeing Leia slice Snoke in half. That would have been fun too. But I do
well,
like
she kind
this.
of does here. She kind of, there's a foreshadowing where she goes through the hologram of the ship as a foreshadow of what happens later in the film.
It's a really. We'll get to that as closer to the end, but yeah.
I just would have liked to have seen Leia ended up with her badass moment, which could have been, again, a very touching, tear-jerking moment, but badass. And it didn't happen.
I agree that it's a great character moment for Rey in Rise of Skywalker. It's not a great character moment for Chewie. It's not a character moment for Chewie at all because he doesn't make any decisions there. He gets captured. First of all, the mighty Chewbacca gets captured. I like Wookiees that don't get captured.
The wonky Chewbacca.
I like a Wookiee that doesn't get captured. But the fact that he does, and it happens off camera. You don't see him get captured. My experience with Chewbacca as a character is he puts up a fight. He puts up a fight on various occasions.
Well, that's a whole other thing. So they could have shown that.
Then you just see him being led like a schmuck in handcuffs, into this ship, and then he's rescued, and none of it is him making a decision in any way. Whereas this moment with Leia, it's a character moment for Leia. It's her using her own.
Yeah, but the other one was a character moment for Rey. That was a Rey moment, And so I agree with you. It would have been nice. It would have been nice to have more cool Chewie moments. I agree with that. But that's kind of I think that's a separate issue. And I don't think it's that weird for a movie to have a fake out death like that. No. Really, it's pretty typical that movies do that. It just,
But the fact that Chewie doesn't make the decision that saves him, he's just a prop, really. It's something happens to him and then something else happens to him. Right. But it doesn't really involve him.
But your heart still breaks when you thought he died. Your heart still broke, right?
Yeah, but if it's not real, then that's worse.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think having your heart break and then the relief of seeing him again. I don't know. I don't think it's that out of line with what any movie would do, and I think it was worth it for the Rey moment there.
I feel if it was Ryan Johnson who in this movie displays, a chutzpah like you haven't seen, incredible amounts of audacity, probably would have let Chewie be dead at that moment for real.
I don't want
and
to,
I would have been upset yet thrilled.
I don't want to spend too much time here because we'll get to it in 2 years, but I am glad that they didn't. You almost immediately find out that Chewie's not dead in that. It's like, oh no, Chewie's alive. And then the next scene pretty much is just like, hey, we found this furry guy.
You do like that.
I do like that. I do like that it's kind of immediate relief from that they don't lean on it too hard. And then at the end it's like, oh, it's Chewie. Anyway. But here.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's over quick.
Would do you think, what if, again, this is spitballing, you could do idea, what's that, spitballing ideas, what's the word I'm thinking of? I can't think of it, but what if the the
making up stuff,
the making up stuff,
whataboutism,
if the windshield explodes, there's a moment of that, but then Leia uses the Force to kind of hold it, kind of essentially like not a force field, but like hold the pieces, bring it all back in enough for everybody to escape the bridge, and that exhausts her in a force sense. She collapses from the strain of that so instead of getting sucked out into space and pulling herself back in, if she can use the Force to kind of hold the shards of the windshield in place just long enough for everybody to get out, and then she's still kind of comatose for part of it because they need her to be.
That would have been good and would have nicely foreshadowed what Rey does with the rocks at the end of the film.
Yeah.
Which would have sort of very similar move.
And Johnson could have done that really beautifully because the visuals in this are stunning. Like this is absolutely the most visually beautiful movie out of all of them. So he could have gone to town with that, and you would have this shattered, that whole shattered front pieced together. Could have been really something, actually. Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Right, let's film it. Come on, let's put up a petition to remake this scene.
Remake it.
Oh yeah,
that'll go over well.
I will take the minority opinion on the panel and say I don't think. Personally, I would not have Leia using Force powers. I think it's.
That's a whole other issue. I wouldn't. Yeah. I'm not totally against that either. Yeah.
And just because I think I can understand why thematically like, oh, she's just as much of a Skywalker, so she should have just as many superpowers as Luke does. But I think it kind of gives it. I always thought Leia had her own strengths and her own things that didn't require her to have telekinesis and all this stuff. So like her just being a brilliant politician and strategist, and that's, to me, that was a more natural arc for Princess Leia than, oh wow, now she can discover she has all these things. And so it reminds me of the way Yoda was in Empire. You can't imagine Yoda fighting with a lightsaber, and then we finally get to see Yoda fighting with a lightsaber, and it looks silly. He looks like he looks like a Warner Brothers character hopping around. So that's what it feels like to me with Princess Leia. It's not as silly as Yoda, but like I don't want to see Princess Leia doing any like fighting superpowers. I mean, maybe some basic stuff, you're shooting a gun or whatever, but I like, Jedis to be a special class, and that's what they do, and that's their thing, and then everyone else does their, so now suddenly everyone has force powers. It's anyway, but I understand a lot of people enjoy seeing, finally seeing the female character empowered and all that, and
But I have a question, Alex.
Yes.
When you first saw The Empire Strikes Back and saw at the end of the movie Luke communicating with Leia, and finding him hanging from Cloud City, did you think that was just Luke? I assume that was Luke using his powers. That's what I thought too. Yeah.
Because at that point, Leia was not his sister, so they didn't have any kind of special.
Yeah, and that was fine with me. That was Luke just showing a thing he could do to anybody if he wanted to.
Right.
No, I totally buy what you're saying. Like I actually am fine going that direction too. Because Leia, it just again, the kind of the lessons learned in this movie are about female politics, really, that women, would tend to want to save the people, to preserve life rather than, be this crazy flyboy and, be reckless and hubris. The whole point is hubris. And, I love that angle of this movie. And that would have worked even in a way, maybe more nicely if she wasn't part of all of that, if you didn't have to throw this force stuff in. I agree with that.
Business, all this force.
It would have been nice to have more female Jedi, of course, but it didn't have to be Leia.
Right. And I think we get, again, it's not in this movie, so I'll save it, but that's,
I think we're getting to the core of it, which is it would probably have been a good idea if Leia was never Luke's sister in the first place.
Yes, that's the worms were already opened in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
That toothpaste already sailed.
Can I ask a weird question?
Sure.
I rewatched A New Hope, and I swear it looked like she just kissed him on the cheek. But wasn't it? Did they change that? Did they have couple takes? Because I could swear as a kid they kissed on the mouth.
No, you're probably conflating with Empire.
Yeah,
Empire. They definitely kiss on the mouth.
Okay, so it's different. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that threw me.
Yeah, she kisses him for luck on the cheek.
Okay, so it was on the cheek, and it was that way in the original. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought they changed that too.
Well, if I may, whose character is not ruined and has a bright future ahead of them, and there's a
who might that be?
I'm happy to see them.
I know.
I'm happy to see them here. Yes, Joe Dator.
PZ4CO.
PZ4CO. That's right. We get PZ4CO. She's on the job here. She's we just saw her walking around before, and now she's actually kind of barking out some medical orders. It seems.
That's the blue robot.
Oh, I love her.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
She has you can see it. I have a Godzilla here. The PZ4CO's suit is based on the Godzilla principle of having a very long neck, and the actor's head is inside the neck, and then the character head is on top of the long neck.
Right. Although when you said
and
Godzilla principle, I pictured like a Godzilla school. And
like a
Godzilla school.
Godzilla principal is like a sitcom, right? It's like a giant monster who's the principal of a school. It's like a hanging with Mr. Cooper thing or something.
So far we've got
it's like a head of the class.
Puppet and Son, and then Godzilla school.
Puppet and Son and Godzilla principal.
Godzilla principal.
With that puppet stuff,
honestly, it took me years and years and years, like well into my 20s, to figure out that the actor in the Godzilla suit's head was inside of Godzilla's neck.
Mm-hmm.
Ruined it for you.
It dawned on me, like, oh yeah, of course, naturally.
Same thing with PZ.
Yeah,
PZ's.
I looked up some information about PZ4CO.
Sure.
on the wiki and the Wookiee, and I was amused to learn that PZ Forcio helped Leia write her memoirs. Which is kind of a funny idea. And it said PZ Forcio took 4 days to convince Leia to write her memoirs. You imagine some droid nagging you for 4 days to write your memoirs? Anyway,
I can picture that. I could use that droid right now.
Yeah.
But
having just read that Carrie Fisher biography, I could totally see that's basically how she wrote her first book. Was her editor sent over someone to be like, all right, I'm going to talk with you and we'll just talk through the story, and you just, kind of like to get the ball rolling. So I think that's it seems like a similar thing here.
I need that.
PZ Forcio.
And at some point, the book you can program the droid to just write the book.
Yeah,
and it's not gonna.
And then you just slap it on,
credit.
By Princess Leia with PZ Forcio, but it's really PZ Forcio. We know that.
It's reason. I think so.
Do you think that was a big legal precedent when a droid got actually co-writing credit on a human? It'd be like your computer word processor getting credit on your book that you wrote.
I mean, it's consistent
Alex
with the
Robinson
treatment of droids in these films.
Word 97.
It's consistent with the treatment of droids in these films.
Sure.
They're not treated well.
No.
They're slave labor.
There's that shot, which everyone luckily just happened to be right at the window when the Leia got sucked out the thing, and that was a bit of fortuitous luck. But now every time I see Finn, I want him to be saying, "Is that Rey? Is that Rey? Is Rey back?" Like every time, any situation he's in, it's all he's like a dog waiting for his owner to come home, just constantly.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
Where's Rey?
Where's Rey?
Where is Rey?
Well, we have a method of finding that out, because here Leia was holding her cloaked binary beacon.
Binary beacon.
The CBB.
You know me.
Binary beacon, a binary beacon, a binary beacon.
The CFF. The comedy film
funnel. Here's a question for the panel. Does she drop this beacon intentionally for it to be picked up by presumably Finn or Poe or somebody in the crew? Is she like, here, take
Not
this?
Finn.
Or is it intentional that she's like dropping it here for somebody else to take it, or was it just like coincidentally? Does it save the essentially like grave robber scene where Finn would have to go sneak into her hospital bed and take her bracelet off? Where's Rey?
I think Palpatine arranged that it would be put there so that Finn would go find Rey and thus restore her prophecy.
Right.
Why do you keep saying Palpatine when you mean Snoke?
Well, because Palpatine's the one who's controlling Snoke.
I don't know what that means.
I think it was an accident. I can't imagine Princess Leia trusting a dope like Finn with something as important.
Yeah, I agree. Yes. Also, what good does it do for someone else to have it? As long as it's working, Rey can find her way back, right? So it's better if it's on her body in the hospital.
It is surprisingly rickety, isn't it? Like, it looks like it's just like a little like shoelace holding the thing,
Yeah, it looks a little Etsy.
I don't know. And so that's why I thought it definitely fell off, because it looks
it's
like
a bit craftsy.
It's craftsy. It's like
made out of pipe cleaners and
so
macaroni.
It wasn't surprising to me that it would just slip off.
But what interesting that like there was just an explosion of explosive decompression and force propelled return into the ship, and it didn't come off during that, but then once she's put onto a stretcher, then I was like, oh, flop.
True.
It seems a little, it made me think maybe it was intentional, and again, once
I don't know, it needed that extra nudge. Maybe
she was just in the middle of taking it off when she passed out to hand it to Poe or somebody more responsible, PZ Forcio for that matter.
Yeah, Poe's more responsible.
And then it just fell on the ground. And
Finn, my theory is
being a janitor,
Leia did intentionally dropped it and hoped PZ Forcio would pick it up because she trusts PZ Forcio.
PZ was supposed to be the heroine of the rest of the story. It was supposed to be her tale.
And I think she knew that Finn, being so obsessive and driven, was going to try to steal it, so she made a fake one and left it there.
Oh,
so that like making
here.
a separate birthday cake for Homer Simpson
exactly
to eat.
Exactly what I was going to say.
Or is it really?
Um, or maybe she was like, she was going for the other wrist. She was a little bit dazed, having just gone through that, and her medical alert bracelet is on the other wrist, and so she was like, "No, look, I'm allergic to Retinox," but then it's on the other side, so she went like, "Oh no, that's not the one," and then
I've decompressed and I can't get back.
Yeah.
Well, she has that huge gold thing on the other wrist. Remember that big honking thing?
Yeah.
So, and actually, that must have looked ridiculous. The two of them together.
What's on your wrist?
Sparkly thing.
Okay, that looks nice. That doesn't look ridiculous.
Yeah, we're on video, so why not wear things I would never wear anywhere else? Sitting in my closet.
Yeah.
Trying to find. I thought I had a PZ4CO here on my desk, but now I can't find her. So.
Yeah, I should have gotten mine ready. It's the only action
desk.
figure from The Force Awakens that I bought.
And so it ends with Chewie cooking, but we get into a lot of that tomorrow. So
we see. Let me just say, because we see Rey for 1 second. This is the only Rey sighting of the week, and I did my hair. You can't see it. Can you see it? I did a sloppy Rey. I did a for the show.
Good old sloppy Rey.
No, it's been falling apart day by day.
I've
been sleeping in it, just like Rey in this. I've been sleeping in it, so I was surprised to see that she was sleeping in her Rey do.
Well, I would mention that she's sleeping outdoors, and Luke Skywalker must be a real putz.
Well, don't any of the other huts open? That's the other question. I mean, are they full of caretakers?
She's got to find her an empty hut. He's got to be able to find her an empty hut. She's sleeping. It's cold enough for Chewie to build a fire, and yet she's sleeping outdoors.
But I think she just doesn't want to miss him. I think she could go sleep on the Falcon if she was concerned about
she just wants to be right there as soon as he opens the door to come out.
And yet she does still want to miss him. So I guess she shouldn't have fallen asleep. That was the weakness of her plan.
Did he even give her something to eat? Did he give her some of that big tuna or whatever the hell he caught? I hope.
She only eats bread, though. We established that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
she makes artificial things.
Yeah.
I don't know. We can talk about how much of a putz Luke Skywalker is or is not.
We got plenty of Luke. Plenty of Luke. So, this is your only chance to say anything else about Rey. You guys, anything else? I assume you thought she was done right in this movie.
I always adore Rey. I adore Rey for the whole. Yeah, she's the best. She's just
Rey has some of my favorite scenes in this movie. The stuff where she's learning about the Force,
but even better in the next movie.
Force.
I will concede that there's things in The Rise of Skywalker that there are moments where Rey is very heroic, and I enjoy watching.
There are moments where Rey is very heroic,
but it is completely and utterly undercut by them changing her backstory. Her backstory, the backstory of her that we get in this film, is meaningful to me. It's deeply meaningful to me. This idea that the Force can be accessed by anybody, and that somebody who is powerful with the Force could come from anywhere. It's it's something that I always kind of wanted the Force to be. It's what I was
but that turns out to not be true.
Well, do you want to say why?
It's as true as it needs to be for me.
Well, Joe is an adoptee. That's why.
Right. So, Joe, are you saying that your grandfather might really be Palpatine?
Adoptee might.
I think that is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, my parents were filthy junk traders. They sold me for drinking money. And I'd like to think that I could be a Jedi too. I'm
too old.
Isn't it
not going to let my parents listen to this episode?
Isn't it more interesting to have it be? Isn't it more? And again, this has very little to do with this movie, but and again, Return of the Jedi caused all these problems. But isn't it better to have it be a more of a learned skill that, like, oh, if you do this, literally anybody could pick this up, and if you believe in it and you study it and you become one with it, then it's a thing, rather than a genetic lottery. Like, oh well, obviously this person,
is predisposed to.
I mean, I like that there's degrees. Yeah. I like that there's degrees. There's, on the one hand, you have Rey, and on the other hand, you have someone like Chirrut Imwe, who is not a Jedi and could never be a Jedi because they lack that power, but can still access the Force and can still benefit from it. Anyone can benefit from it. It's kind of like, anyone can meditate and benefit from Buddhism. Not everyone can be a Lama. Not everyone can be a Jedi. Not everyone has that that connection to the Force that Rey has, where the Force is actually calling her to it. But you can still be Chirrut Imwe, and you can still be able to access and use the Force, and be connected through it.
I think I think it's part of the anti-education and anti-intellectual slant that our culture is taking, where it used to be like, oh, you have to train, you have to have an older person tell you what to do, and now we're just like, I don't want to do all that. I just want my Jedi powers now. And so now we're just like, okay, everyone gets Jedi powers.
But what what do you mean by that? But what is that is that a criticism of Rey's treatment in this film, or of the next film, of her being part of a bloodline?
It's Return of the Jedi. Again, Return of the Jedi caused all the problems.
Yeah.
Well, so I guess I'll wrap up minute 33. Unless you guys have anything else you want to say about that. Well, all of us have a lot of opinions about a lot of different crazy things, and we love to podcast about them. I, for instance, have another podcast called Godfather Minute, in which me and my brother go through The Godfather 1 minute at a time, only one minute a week, so it's a lot slower pace over there. So you can check that out at godfatherminute.com or find us on YouTube. Pete, why don't you tell us about ABCDTOS?
That's right. It's a couple of movies by minutes, veterans, and our friend Joe, not this friend Joe, but a different friend Joe. We've got me, we've got John Ingle from Alien Minute, we've got Tom Taylor from Indiana Jones Minute, and Joe Mazel. Yeah, it's a super group. And we go alphabetically through every episode of Star Trek, the original series. And it's fun, and it's weekly, just like Godfather Minute. It's weekly. So it's another thing that I like. Star Trek. You don't have to be Star Trek or Star Wars. You can be both. Yeah.
Susan, where are you on your in your podcasting releases these days?
Well, I'd finished up the Shining 237 series, and I'm at the very end of Rosemary's Baby. We'll be interviewing the Antichrist very soon, and then and then starting up the comedy film funnel with Mr. Joe Dator, who you may see right below me.
Yes, I will be co-host. I will be sort of your Ed McMahon on that one.
Yes.
Yes.
We just recorded Cabin Boy, and we did Bedazzled, and it's going to be so much fun.
Which Bedazzled?
Yeah, we have
the original.
The original Bedazzled.
Oh yeah, Peter Cook and Dudley Moore.
Which you can't watch anywhere. It's just not available.
Surprisingly unavailable. Yeah. It's hard to find.
Well, we will be easy to find here tomorrow on another brand new Star Wars Minute.
Star Wars
Minute. Star Wars.